This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Sierra 117. This is Raw Dogs. Chief out.
All right, and welcome to another episode of Raw Dogs. That's right, I'm saying it this time.
Ow. Kids are too cool.
Raw Dogs is a offshoot of Hair of the Dogcast, and we are more known for our going in depth, whereas Dogcast is a little more footloose and fancy-free. We like to delve a little further into these subjects and get right to the nitty-gritty of it.
We like to go deep.
Yes, we do, and that's why we're called the Raw
Video
Dogs.
Games 201.
I'm Dylan Hoff, everyone's least favorite.
I will say that Dylan is the youngest. We'll say that he is the youngest of the Dogcast crew.
I'm
and
a
he is
baby.
half of the Raw Dogs. The other half would be myself
You.
over here. And I am Brad. We are part of the Greenlit Podcast Network. Go to greenlitpodcast.com to check out some of the other awesome podcasts on there. And we are graced by one of the usual suspects on the show. It is Al Pacino.
What the fuck? You said this is a podcast about surprise mechanics, motherfucker.
And you're not.
Goodbye.
Hey, everybody. My name's
Surprise.
Tom. I'm from the Hair of the Dogcast. Thank you guys for having me on. It's fun to join the Raw Dogs.
Tom, thanks for getting all the podcast equipment.
Hey, you got it, man. Got it all set up, ready for you.
And we're also in Tom's very nice air-conditioned home right now.
I had to turn on the AC today.
Yeah.
It was...
It is a scorcher in Milwaukee.
It got a little too hot, a little too fast. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Now I just can't sleep. When it turns to summer, I literally probably lose about 5 hours of sleep a night. It's crazy. But today we're actually getting into a subject that's near and dear to my heart in terms of how crazy it is and just how buck wild it is in terms of especially our society right now and our late stage capitalism.
It's so reflective of humanity in general. Like, oh, this could be a good idea. Let's fucking ruin it with
Yes.
money.
Yeah, it has a lot in common with the coronavirus.
It does actually.
It is destroying society, and
Wow. We're
and somehow EA is profiting from it.
Yeah, no shit.
the subject at hand right now is microtransactions and DLC.
Baby.
The history.
I want to get a little into the history about it, but I also want to get into the psychology of it because within that, it's really interesting. I actually studied quite a bit of game theory for this and how the human brain interacts with perceived competition.
Before we get into microtransactions and that psychology, it starts off a little more innocent. We're going to just talk about DLC and how content is delivered to the home. Did you ever use the Atari game line, Tom?
No, I have not even heard of the Atari game line.
Neither have I.
I don't know how big it was back in the day, but it is the first dial-up game distribution service. Download games over a telephone line. Mom, get off of there.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. Mom, hurry. Stop it.
I am downloading E.T. again.
My curiosity is how much this could have possibly
Horrible
cost.
It was $60 for the hardware, $15 for a membership fee, and about a buck a game after you had it all set up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just
So
how
this
buck wild it
was
is in terms of,
actually
like-
sanctioned by Atari. This was an Atari product.
It's the Atari game line, so yeah.
That's
then-
pretty cool. I mean, that's
Well-
ahead of time. I'm curious to see how long it lasted.
When it's just the phone line, I'm not even sure mechanically how that works, to be fair.
It probably, you remember the old modems where you put the actual headset of the phone
Sure.
on the two cups?
Yeah.
I bet it was that.
When you downloaded the game, you could only keep it for 1 week.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's
just go
basically
bad.
it's more or less a precursor to Nintendo Switch Online.
Once the video game crash of 1983 happened is when Game Line ceased operations. I think it was a unique experiment that was maybe ahead of its time.
I think that's an episode in and of itself, to be honest with you.
In 1990 is what I think is an interesting case of microtransactions to an extent very early.
I do remember this.
This was Double Dragon 3, the Rosetta Stone, in arcades. Now, I'm surprised more arcade cabinets didn't utilize this technique.
They didn't, but I think this set off was the big bang. There were a few games that did do that, and it still do.
Where you're adding the quarters?
Where you're adding quarters to buy things, let's say, from a shop. Like you're actually purchasing some nunchucks with another quarter.
Now, this actually might be, in my opinion, the first most egregious attempt.
Yeah, I mean, you're buying upgrades, power-ups, health, weapons. Essentially, here's maybe the first instance of the pay-to-win model. People don't want to count it so much, but it is. I mean, a lot of those arcade cabinets, though, you die, you throw another quarter in.
Yeah.
But this is one where you are actually buying enhancements to your gameplay.
That does kind of suck. I guess when you think about microtransactions, I think a lot of us, our gaming history starts with microtransactions. At least for myself, my first game I ever played was Pac-Man, and arcade games themselves are just microtransaction based. You're paying to play, paying to progress.
We talked about this on the last episode of the main Dogcast, but did it ever really feel like a ripoff to you? Now, I know there are situations where you have things like Dragon's Lair and stuff like that, where everything's a little expensive and kind of cheap.
It didn't really feel that way. It just felt like this is the way it is. This is an amusement machine. So I'm used to paying 25 cents for one of those fucking plastic bubbles that comes with a little figure inside of it. Here's 25 cents a pop to play 10 minutes or 5 minutes of this game. And it's not like we ever had the ability to purchase an arcade game.
You bring up an interesting point, though, because you compared it to, you put in a quarter to get those crappy little bubble toy things. This is a distinction between something that has a physical, real-world value versus something ethereal that is gone once you're done with it, which, when you buy a physical copy of a game, you have it. And when you buy a digital copy of a game, to an extent, you own it. But eventually...
To an extent.
Right. But it's also, you don't have any physical, tangible thing. You couldn't trade it if you buy a digital game online.
Yep.
And arcades were there to gobble up your quarters.
Oh, and they did.
And I would argue that this isn't that egregious. This isn't that crazy. I relate this more to the idea of arcades being more like amusement parks rather than being what we know video games to be today. These were things like we were talking about before, like you get into the games in the 80s and those arcades, these were experiential things. They were something ethereal. You had it and then it was gone.
Yes.
And so I don't find that objectionable, and obviously you didn't at the time, and I still think people, they kind of like going to arcades.
When Dragon's Lair charged $1 to play it, that was above and beyond, you know?
Yeah.
But 25 cents? Yeah, fuck it.
We're moving on to the Sega Genesis with the Sega MegaNet. It launched in Japan, 1990.
Tom, you look confused by some of these things. Have you heard of the Sega MegaNet before?
I have not heard of the MegaNet, but I'm assuming this was a precursor to the Sega Channel, which I did have.
Oh, you did have the Sega Channel.
I did.
What were you saying about the MegaNet, Dylan?
It's an online multiplayer gaming service. I wasn't even familiar with this until I looked it up just for this podcast.
Yeah. Offered unique titles, launched in Japan. This one didn't come to America, the MegaNet.
Well,
okay.
The great thing about America, which you'll find out pretty quick in accordance to all of this, is that so much of the country is the boondocks. And they don't have access to internet and stuff like that.
Yeah. We did have the X-Band modem, though. That did come out.
What is the X-Band modem?
It was a third-party peripheral for SNES or Sega Genesis, and you could play NBA Jam. It's like you would plug into your Genesis, like a 32X. It looked just like a cartridge, and then you'd plug the game on top of it.
Oh, really?
And then it had a phone line, and you could play like NBA Jam and a couple fighting games and shit.
I didn't know this.
Over the internet.
That's very cool.
I wonder if I still I don't have mine yet. And it wouldn't work anyways, but...
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Have you tried?
It was all right. I think I got it working once with a buddy who had it. So
yeah, the MegaNet offered some unique titles. Stuck around for a couple of years, but it kind of led into the Sega Channel.
Yeah.
Which was a little bigger.
Yes.
This started in 94 and it was an online game service, akin to MegaNet. Use the coaxius cable. You could access games, game demos, and get cheat codes.
No multiplayer, but you could download a set of games every month. I actually lived in Tennessee at the time and was a test market for it. And my buddy's mom worked at the cable channel.
Okay.
So we had to hook up.
So you were part of the test market.
Yeah, honestly, was. And I really enjoyed it at the time. You would plug this thing into your Genesis. It was a cartridge, but it was a big fucking cartridge with the coaxial cable coming out of it.
Yeah.
And it would have a custom Genesis menu, 64 colors. It looked like a startup menu for a game. And then you would...
like a browser?
A bit of a browser, but it was more like a selection screen. And you could check like messages. and then go into the library of games. And I forgot like how many games they would give you every month, but it would change the selection, kind of like a Game Pass thing on them.
Like, try these. It's basically its own marketing.
Yeah.
I think there was an exclusive Mega Man for it.
Yes, the Wily Wars. That was
Yeah.
in the U.S. Yeah, that's
I've
the only
actually
way you
played
can get
that
it.
one. It's not
It's
bad.
good. I played
Yeah.
it on my totally legal RetroPie setup.
Of course you have.
If they want to make these services work, you gotta lock at least something big like that behind it.
Yeah.
Because didn't Nintendo do that with the Satellaview, where they had a version of Legend of Zelda, which is supposed to be the best version, but was only available on the Satellaview?
It was only available. Yep. They broadcast it certain times of the day.
Strange stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
Weird timing.
Nintendo stepped very far away after the Satellaview. Like, we don't know about online shit at all.
And they still
ouch.
haven't figured it out. They
That's
still
the
haven't
funny
figured
thing.
it out.
Yeah, the Satellaview was a satellite modem for the Super Famicom from 1995. It had 1 megabit of ROM and 512 kilobits of RAM.
Jesus.
You
Okay.
could download games, magazines, and other content.
Magazines.
Released for about
Okay.
$150.
I mean, I've heard of this throughout the years.
I have not.
The stories that I've mostly heard are people and preservationists who have tried to get the Zelda version back working because it was only broadcasts, and all these people were piecing together live broadcasts like they had taped on videotape or something together to like try to get the code to piece the thing together.
That's dedication. I'm not gonna lie.
And I
this
think
was,
they did it.
Was this Link to the Past or was this the first one?
It was its own thing, but it might have been a remix of
Oh, okay.
possibly Link to the Past.
As we move away from that, this is the era where PC gaming became like PC gaming, and we're getting into expansion packs.
Oh, buddy.
Which is a form of DLC, but it's physical.
It's like-
it's not downloadable, so you can't really say that. But
DTGYC, drive to get your content.
we got to put that on the shirt. Now, this is where you're getting close to crossing a line. This is where I feel like you get your base game, but then months later you get a little bit extra. That's fair enough. It depends on the pricing, though.
I do appreciate, when a game is released complete, if they take the same framework and they build a new campaign. If the story content or the new gameplay content has a value, it shouldn't cost another full game price. But if the full game was $60, I don't mind spending $20 or $30 to have another 8 to 10 hours of gameplay if it's worth it.
Yes.
Yep.
And I think that expansion packs are innocent enough. It's when they start getting to season passes and online passes that the value is debatable.
When they offer it right away, that's kind of my line where I kind of think it's a bit of a ripoff at that point. Why don't you wait to see if your game is successful first? And I have a feeling, especially Blizzard at this point, they would put something out and then they'd wait. And since development time was already much shorter at that time anyway, they were probably like, yes, it's a hit. Let's get a little bit of a boost on this.
PC expansion packs, to my remembrance, were never they never had it in the hopper ready to go. And you usually got a full game experience first, and then they realize, hey, this is a hit.
I don't think anyone back at that time realized, just chop off a third of the content. We'll charge them for it later.
Thank God.
Yeah, it was maybe a little more innocent back then. People were just more concerned about creating good games and not squeezing money out of everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, games still cost $50 back then, so they were making more money back then than they are now.
Well, unless it was cartridge based, right? Then it basically depended on the title and what chips they were using.
Yeah, unless you were Nintendo made money. That's for sure.
I was surprised to learn that the PS1 had kind of an expansion pack for the console. Grand Theft Auto London 1969 for the PS1, you'd put one disc in, swap out the disc, and then you'd play the other one with other content.
Oh yeah, that did have a...
That was odd to me. I didn't know that was a thing that they did back then. So you actually had to own the first game to play the other disc.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you guys know that, but in Final Fantasy VII, the only difference between the discs is literally just the cutscenes. That's it.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's one disc will hold an FMV of one type, and the other one will hold one of a different type. My girlfriend Allison, actually, they had one of the discs that was broken, and whenever an FMV would pop up, the game would freeze. They would open it up, put in like disc 2, and then have that run through it, and then put the other disc back in.
So are you telling me that Tifa's pointies are stored on every disc?
Pretty much, dude.
Okay. Good thing I have all three still.
I don't think this one's too crazy. I've honestly never heard about the swapping out of discs unless it's an RPG with multiple discs.
Yeah, or you're trying to get past copy protection.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Which could be easily done.
Which
on a
I read about on
PlayStation.
the dark web. Never tried it
Right.
myself.
Never tried any of that thrill kill.
No, absolutely not. And then we're getting into early DLC with the Dreamcast. I've never owned a Dreamcast. This one would be hard for me to talk
Son
about.
of a gun.
I've never owned a Dreamcast either, and I have been dancing around the idea of buying one because they're not that. They're like $50 if you want to grab one now.
If you're going to buy any retro console,
Are you going to get a nice, really yellowed one by cigarette smoke?
Ideally,
yeah,
yeah.
a little patina on that thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would recommend getting a Dreamcast for sure.
No new console will come out cigarette colored. I guarantee that. Yeah, the Dreamcast, a console kind of ahead of its time in many ways.
I think so.
I think
so,
the
too.
Dreamcast, if they had done just a couple of things differently, maybe the release date, the price point, if things had shifted around in a slightly different way, I think it could have been the first like major innovation changing console. I think it fell by the wayside because I think it was maybe a little ahead of its time.
PS2 loomed large in its shadow.
They lack titles. A lot of these were all like Sega produced within. They didn't get enough third-party support.
a lot
That's
of-
really what broke
A
it.
lot of developers held off for PS2 because they knew that was going to be a juggernaut.
Well, and they didn't
And
want to
EA.
invest. They didn't want to invest in Dreamcast because of what had happened with the Sega Saturn.
Man,
Yep.
Sega just fucked up time after time there. 32X, Sega Saturn, Sega CD. They kept trying to
those were legitimate fuck ups.
They kept trying to make micro consoles instead of a real console.
Yeah, Dreamcast though, it's a shame. It really is a shame because that was a great console.
Clearly, what you need are clear delineations between each of these things. And when one comes out every year or two, it just confuses the shit out of people. Look at the Wii to the Wii U. I literally had people say like, "Oh, is that just another controller for the Wii?"
Yeah,
People
was
didn't know
so-
what it was.
marketing.
That just needed a different name,
Means
and then
something.
people would have known that. If it was a Nintendo 2, every schmuck on the street will get it. Or just call it the Wii 2.
The Wii shouldn't have been called the Wii.
Well, no,
But we're
that-
off
they
topic.
can call that whatever they want. Apparently,
It was dumb, but man, it was good.
yeah.
the two little eyes bow together.
Yeah, it was cute.
I mean, all you needed
Fuck you,
was a
Revolution.
video of someone pretending to play bowling.
Two Japanese dudes come to your door. We would like to play.
We would like to play. Yes. We're getting a little off
Grandma's
topic.
just like killing people with Zelda swords.
Someday,
Witness?
there are some of these that I completely understand, and this will actually be reflected later in things like Rock Band and Rock Band 2. Someday Amigo, actually, that's the Morocco one. You can download additional songs. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and the Dreamcast DLC is largely you don't have to pay for
Yeah.
anything. I think the problem with the Dreamcast downloadable content was you're limited by the VMU. You have 128 kilobytes of flash memory. You don't have a lot to work with there.
No.
The first DLC for the Dreamcast was Sonic Adventure. It would add balloons around town and little bits of flavor text saying, "Welcome to the Dreamcast. This is going to be huge."
Oh, you mean Station Square? The
And
best
it's-
hub world? I'm just kidding.
And it's a lot of hopefulness that was aged like milk.
Yeah, I never tried to update this game at all.
I think a lot of this just it breaks down to, this is bad for even the time that it is because there's no real ease of getting access to any of this unless you are in the know.
Yeah.
It would be like you'd have to read a manual to figure out how to start it up and do it. It's
I-
not as easy as plugging in the Xbox to a wire.
Yeah, Dreamcast was the beginning of it, of them making it a little bit more user friendly. Because I remember it came with an internet browser disk, and I remember hooking that fucker up to my phone line and browsing the internet for like 5 minutes before I'm like, yeah, fuck this shit.
The Dreamcast needed to have a hard drive. If it had more memory for you to do stuff with, it could have done a lot more with its capabilities.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
Skies of Arcadia, you could download a new boss. There was some other cool DLC on there.
Yes.
I was excited to learn that some on-disc DLC from a game was finally unlocked in 2017.
What is this called? Floygen Bros?
Floygen Bros,
Only
yeah.
came out in Norway. Floygen.
They had planned once a month to have like a different event, and it was all stored on the disc. So this was kind of ahead of their time. We're like, we want to have like a different mini game and fun thing come out every month. The Dreamcast failed before they could release everything.
Yeah.
So this was all locked on the disc, and no one knew how to get it until 2017. someone worked with the Floygan Bros creators, and they finally got it
tracked
unlocked.
them down.
Yeah.
Are you a Floygan brother?
There's a guy with a Floygan Brothers poster, and he's just modding the shit out of it. He's got soldering tools and shit like that. He's just,
I need it.
Just listen to Swedish black metal in the background.
I need the other character skin.
Okay, then we move on to the Xbox, which is my first instance of seeing someone actually plug in a system to the internet.
There you go.
It blew my mind.
Broadband.
Xbox Live. That was my first time going online too. And I remember going to my friends Tommy and Ryan's house, and we learned a lot as 7th graders about IP addresses and subnet masks.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like going to the computers, like, I don't know, this isn't right. Because it wasn't simply plug and play.
No.
You did have to know a few basic things.
Yes.
And for a 7th grader, without the assistance of an adult,
Yep. You have to clone your MAC address, baby.
we were probably using Yahoo still at the time.
I'm still using Yahoo.
Yeah.
Tom Rocks 69 at yahoo.com.
I think Rox was actually in my
my
name.
What was great about the Xbox is it had 8 gigabytes of space to play with on the console. And
That was huge at the time. That's a lot of gigs.
do you
for,
mean
like,
physically? Because the Xbox was huge?
Figuratively.
I mean,
and
the
physically.
Duke controller I've debated getting again because I thought that was a great controller, but
The Xbox One,
big hands.
The Xbox One has a Duke variation that's got.
yeah, I know.
It looks unnecessary, expensive, and I want it.
Me too. I've never seen one in person, but I just wanted to see like the little Xbox screen.
Yeah.
As a man with large hands, the Duke does seem very appealing.
I agree.
Yeah. Unreal Championship, the first game patch.
For consoles, yeah.
Yeah, for the console of the Xbox.
The Xbox was still a pretty innocent time. Almost all the DLC for the Xbox was free. Outside of Microsoft content, there was a few, like Mech Assault had some paid DLC for some new maps and mechs. Most of the patches and the content, like Ninja Gaiden received a patch because there was an online contest to find the best Ninja Gaiden player, and they had to patch in some like little gameplay tweaks so they could monitor progress on that. It was a service you paid for, Xbox Live. You paid to get online. But I remember that first time we got it working and seeing other players that we could shoot in Unreal Championship online. That changed my life. That blew our baby little minds back
Oh,
then.
baby.
And then, of course, Phantasy Star was a big one for the Xbox as well.
Fantasy Star, yeah.
For
Also
us,
just-
anyways.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had that for Dreamcast as well. I did go online with that a little bit.
How was that experience on the Dreamcast?
Man, I think I probably played 45 minutes of it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it ran, but I realized, I'm not an MMO guy. You know,
The GameCube, of course, didn't want to fuck with that really at all.
They tried and they fooled me into buying Phantasy Star Online. I believe I've said this in a previous cast.
did that
I
come with the
bought it-
modem, or did you have to buy each separately?
I bought it separately because I bought it used
Okay.
because I was a child and I didn't know the difference. And as someone without the internet, I got home with it and I was just like, oh yeah. And then it's like initial setup and I'm like, fuck. I probably cried. I was 11 or 12. I can't remember. But my mom was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, we got to go back to the mall. this sucks. Yep.
I think for the Xbox, Bungie was the biggest instance of DLC with the Halo 2 multiplayer packs. As far as console gaming that generation, I would say almost that exclusively was, at least my experience with DLC,
Sure.
was all of a sudden online Halo 2 has 10 new multiplayer maps. That was amazing.
Was that the first instance of something like that?
I mean,
A map pack?
Mech Assault had new maps you could download even on the Dreamcast. There was some very small updates that wouldn't be pretty because of the size of the VMU, but Bungie's Halo 2 multiplayer
Right.
map pack for consoles was the first major DLC expansion pack release. I think
Yeah, that was my question.
That had substantial value for sure. And Bungie did it right back on the Xbox. And Xbox Live was pretty groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is where games truly hit their stride, and I'll give this solely to Halo. Once Halo hit, everyone's boyfriend was fucking playing it, and everyone was in. They were bought in, even if it was just one game. If they had that one game that they liked playing,
Yeah.
it was something that people did. Now, like, people might have still seen it as something childish, but they still had to still get in line with the fact that this was something people enjoyed.
I think the Xbox, the only reason that it did survive was, Halo and the fact that it had the built-in modem that you could local area network with Halo. I think that experience by itself plus Xbox Live is really what carried it and made it what it was.
I agree.
You take out that Ethernet plug and Xbox Live, I don't think
It did have Munch's Odyssey. Let's not forget.
That's a good game.
The amazing game.
Cunnilingus.
I mean, I have friends who.
That's what they call my tongue.
I had friends who weren't really. I had friends who weren't really gamers prior to Halo 2, and weren't gamers after so much. But man, they were online playing Halo 2 when that came out. Like they were day one, and that's when I kind of realized I need to move out of the country, not out of the U.S., but out from the boonies to a city where I can get actual cable internet or DSL at least.
Yeah. Now we're getting to a point where my mind was completely blown, and that's the Xbox 360 with the Xbox Live service on there and the arcade. Purchasing Microsoft points. That means like literally you could go into
Geometry Wars.
You could go into a GameStop and you could be like, I'm gonna get this dumb little card with a scratch off serial number on the back that I can use to unlock points to buy digital things.
Xbox Live general manager Camp Roney, he said, generally, if you do anything less than $5, you're going to end up eating the bulk of that in transaction fees. So that's why they introduced the Microsoft point system, which eventually Nintendo still incorporates that going forward. But
which makes no sense and is so obtuse.
But I love how in the Nintendo Switch one, they're like, do you want to buy the specific number of points to buy this game? It's like, yeah, I'm just going to give you the $10 I want.
At least they allow you to do that now, because that was never the case.
And they
even
do
with
give
Microsoft.
Now they kind of give you almost like cashback rewards for how much you're buying. As someone who buys a lot of indie titles for the Switch, because I don't really want to play them on anything else, they give you a little kickback. And you can use that kickback and redeem it on further things.
Right.
It doesn't mean a lot in the short term, but in the long run, I've gotten like $10 off of a game that I wanted.
This is my first time kind of feeling scuzzy with DLC, with buying stuff online, because, all right, this costs 90 points. I'm going to buy 100 points. Now I have 10 more. I have to buy more points to use those 10 points.
Yep.
And eventually you want to just keep feeding the dragon or whatever they call that.
Yeah, exactly you weren't alone in your scuzzy feeling. I never liked that at all, and I did feel dirty as well. And I thought that was a very predatory fucking practice.
And microtransactions were still something that they were trying to introduce generally.
Ease it in there.
They're trying to ease it in there.
Just fucking... Ooh.
Can I give you guys the exact definition according to psychologists of what they consider microtransactions?
Oh, yes, Mr. Freud.
Yes. When a user of a game can buy virtual goods for small increments of real currency. Okay. Now, this could mean a lot of things. Now, usually, this also comes with the idea that it has to be small increments. If they don't start doing these in small increments, it makes people feel like they're getting ripped off. But if you drop a little here and you drop a little there, it's going to add up. That falls in line with Microsoft points almost immediately. You know, like if you enter a restaurant, if the walls are red, you're going to be a little hungrier. There's a real psychology to all of this.
Right.
And a lot of it extends from gambling.
It's all a subtle manipulation that's going on. And they were still trying to figure out the best way to introduce new content to people, how to price it, what would be the most costly way to handle downloadable content. Microsoft had a few games that they released a few things for just to show other publishers what they were doing. On Cameo, Elements of Power, Perfect Dark Zero, Project Gotham Racing 3, they offered some new maps for $2.50. They wanted to kind of show other publishers, this is what's going on, and you can do this. And those are kind of like the first microtransactions to an extent where it's acceptable to release small amounts of content for this much money. But it wasn't until a very notorious thing that people noticed it.
This one makes me giddy because this is something I actually downloaded.
And I remember this coming out too, and I was just baffled because Elder Scrolls Oblivion, there was some other aspects of this DLC, like the orrery, some new buildings.
Yeah.
I'm into some of this stuff they had here, but the horse armor.
The horse armor, which granted you a small boost in stats to your horse. Essentially, it couldn't die as easy, but it was mostly just cosmetic. This mostly came in the form of, if you got the elven armor in the game, It looked pretty much just like the elven armor, but for your horse.
I'm 95% sure it was just
Are you
purely
sure
cosmetic.
it was cosmetic?
I thought so too,
I'm
but
almost certain.
maybe there is.
Was that just perceived by me when I was playing the game?
That was perceived by you because every YouTube video.
It's made of
article I read
solid
said
gold,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Then you're probably right. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Well, I mean, it's funny that
I was going from experience.
people were shocked and outraged. How dare you charge us $2.50 for
I just paid $60 for this.
cosmetics? And you look at that from this, like the lens of today, where you have people trading CS:GO skins for absurd amounts of money.
Right.
And this seems both kind of silly and fun, but also the first of many just purely cosmetic downloads that are going to cost you money that have no effect on gameplay, really. But
Yep. This was the first introduction of that for sure. The cosmetic skin. And
This is not going to be the first time that Bethesda completely just mucks the water with this kind of crap.
Fallout 76.
yeah, someone had to be the first and keep the streak alive, I guess.
It's they innovated that capitalism very well. People bought into it too because when you play a game like Oblivion, people get super invested in something like this. For a lot of people, this was a true first RPG experience for them.
I remember I didn't get the horse armor, or actually maybe I did. I don't know. I think I was curious. I'm like, okay, I'll bite. Just to have download something that appears in the game, but they did have some other things too. I think you could buy a house or something and increase your storage or something.
The Wizard's Tower. There were some other
Oh
things.
yes, the Wizard's Tower.
People made fun of it. It was one of the top 10 content packs for Oblivion. They made money on it.
Yes, and they bring it out every once in a while on April Fool's Day and charge double.
I love it.
This is fucking great.
It really depends on how much you like your horse in the game.
I
really didn't go that much faster than running, in my opinion.
Oh, the demon horse. The demon horse is awesome.
Shadowmere?
Shadowmere.
Yeah, Shadowmere
I kept
was
saying
shit.
Shadowfax. No.
Yeah, that's Gandalf's horse.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they spent some time trying to figure out
Ganondorf.
character skins as DLC because I don't think people really bought into it at first.
That became more expanded when you get into like multiplayer games where people want something to brag about and show how cool they are. Back then, cosmetics were just like, this is for your own self-satisfaction. Unless it was like a pure multiplayer game like COD 4 or something like that, no one was ever going to be like, check this out. And you boot it up and your friends are like, oh.
But you're right. I mean, that was a new concept.
Yeah.
Here's something that doesn't add anything.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just something you can look at.
There was another instance of the 360 taking the concept of DLC and microtransactions in a shitty way. Originally, Halo 3 ODST was going to be an expansion pack. They were just developing, was going to be a campaign you download. It would be like $20.
Yep.
Microsoft said, no, you need to release this as a full disc that people spend like $40 on. They go out to the store and buy it.
Drive to get your content. DTGYC.
This is another
Someone will
instance of DTGYC where you had to, I mean, they had something that was going to essentially be a downloadable content package, and they decided to put it on another disc and force it to be another product. This was companies getting greedy.
Well, they describe it as testing the waters.
And it worked like marvelously.
It really did. If you find someone who's invested in anything, they're going to want every scrap of that type of content. There are people who, by instinct purely alone, are collectors. If they feel like if they're not getting the full experience right away, then they're not experiencing it at all.
Right.
What other games do you remember with notable DLC on the 360?
I don't know, mine red ringed after a year of use.
On the 360? Well, certainly Elder Scroll games, they had some pretty meaty content, especially Oblivion.
Well, when you
Skyrim
get
had a lot of substantial DLC,
yeah, but those actually, I would argue, were worth their price.
Yes.
I'm surprised the Assassin's Creed games didn't do more with DLC back in the 360.
I
They
think
did. 3 did, for sure.
Because
one
they
did not.
2 was
Two
essentially
did.
expansion packs as games. Assassin's Creed 2.2,
Well, they had
2.3.
the
Well,
bonfire.
yeah,
they had the bonfire of the vanities, and then there's a Da Vinci based DLC where basically Da Vinci's in trouble and he's on like in like a carriage, and you have to escort him.
I have that.
I
Yeah.
am so into that kind of content to download.
I'm
where
fine
if
with
it's
a lot of that.
new stories, if it's a new 2-3 hour experience for $10.
Those were at the time like $10.
And
They
I
were
guess-
like a few missions, but they were worthwhile, and you got a good item out of it. You know,
And we'll talk some more about the EA stuff a little bit later with the Mass Effect and FIFA things. But
Jesus.
Yeah. So right now we're still in the DLC phase where they're charging to
Nothing substantial, but it's still ramping up.
They want to
ramp up very quickly.
They want to make additional money. They're not charging because the cost of game development is going insane. And
I mean, it is at the same time.
It is going up more, and games are like standardized to have the $60 price point
Right.
around this, and that really doesn't budge.
Right.
And that's when they had to start
Unless you're on the
introducing
Wii,
some
and
new
then
things.
it's 50.
The Nintendo Wii has almost no DLC.
Yes.
It had some of like the emulated classics you could
I
download.
played Link's crossbow training.
Yeah,
the Wii? Well, I don't know. The fucking Wii store.
but like those you're mostly getting classic games.
That's the virtual console.
Virtual
That's
console, yeah.
you know, it's you could get some WiiWares. WiiWare is what it was.
Right.
What's great though is that mostly, I mean, Nintendo, from what I could see, there was almost zero patches even released on the Wii. Their policy was release a full game. We don't want to fuck around with you not having to release a full game, which Nintendo putting their foot down and doing something cool again.
Wish they could still do it.
Botching
Wish it was
online.
Still possible.
They did it again.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, a lot of these games were even during the Wii era. Have you ever tried to plug in your Wii to the internet? It's an insane process.
No, I never did.
I did it in my college dorm to play Smash with my buddy online.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was just the chuggiest, clunkiest mess you've ever seen. It's got a port for an Ethernet cable right back there.
Mm-hmm.
But you could be fooled into thinking it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Do you know the one game that they absolutely had to put a patch in?
Zelda. And you had to download, like, I was just thinking about that. You had to download, like, its own channel or something to update it.
Yep.
Skyward Sword.
Skyward Sword? Okay.
A certain character could get locked out of the room and you wouldn't be able to use the cannon. Yeah,
Okay.
that was the issue was you saved at the wrong point, a character would get locked in the wrong room, and you would forever not be able to move the
Right.
game forward.
You'd be stuck
your
forever.
game would be fucked. So they had to patch it in. Did you know that the third iteration of Pokemon, they also had to figure out a way how to patch the Game Boy cartridge?
Oh.
Because there was a berry glitch where after the first year, berries quit spawning and they quit growing in the game.
Literally, like first physical year of its
Wow.
existence.
After the first physical year of the
Pestilence.
existence. So they had to figure out literally every way they could to get it onto that thing. So I think with like the 64 cartridge, if you're playing Pokemon Stadium, they had it in
Yep.
that where you
I
could
remember
like
this.
download the berry update from that onto your cartridge.
This is
Oh,
this
from
is
another
Pokemon.
game?
No, this is Pokemon Stadium 2.
They figured out every way they could. You could get like the cards. The e-reader would be able to download your little update for that as well.
Well, here's another way. Here's
interesting.
another
There
way
was
they
no
can sneak it
online.
in.
Yeah.
Well, here's another way they can sneak it in, and maybe this is my first experience with downloadable content. Is when you go to a Toys R Us to get a special version of a Pokemon.
Yeah.
With maybe a special move, like Surfing Pikachu. I remember that being a huge one in Pokemon.
Did it have
Yellow.
like kiosks?
Well, yeah, you'd go up to the games register at Toys R Us, and they would say, "Oh yeah, turn on your Game Boy, plug it in,"
Okay.
and then you literally just get the Pokemon as a transfer. I would not be surprised if they introduced patches that way. I don't know officially if they did that, but I'm
Right.
gonna bet you they did.
Spyware.
Yeah,
Did you have a PlayStation 3, Dylan?
I love my PlayStation 3.
You still have it.
Oh, I still have it.
When the PlayStation 3 dropped, there was the $600 price point, and was there another price point, or was
No,
600.
It was 600.
600 and
Flat.
500.
what was the difference between the two releases?
The gigabytes size of the hard
Just the
drive.
size of the hard drive.
Yes. It was 60 gigs and like 20 gigs or something like that.
You know, back on the Xbox, the original one, there was no browser to look through this content. Xbox Live was the first time you could go into the arcade, or you could like look for things to download and updates.
Right.
I never saw the PS3's online browser store mode thing.
You never seen it?
No,
The store?
I'm almost.
Really?
I played PS3 actually only less than 10 times probably.
Wow.
I know, because all the games are on the PS4 now. What's the point? How was the PlayStation online browser for this?
It was fine. Actually, it ran all right when I got into it. Early on, I know that it was a huge disaster, but especially with like the network hacks and stuff like that. But I got it right after those hacks when they literally dropped the price of the Slim, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna get this. It's $250. Like, what am I gonna lose?"
Yeah.
Because I had such crappy internet in my little studio apartment, I remember going in to buy actual physical cards, like money for the PlayStation Store from like
Oh, sure.
GameStop.
Yep.
And I remember doing that and just being amazed. What really impressed me is this is when indie games were popping off. And this was the only way to play them. you had to download them. So you had to buy this stuff. And everyone I saw on the internet was recommending, like, don't put your credit card information on here. Go in to buy them from the actual store. So I did.
Yeah, it was pretty good advice.
But
all things considered.
Tom, what did you get? Mod Nations Racers because of that debacle?
Yeah, Mod Nation
That's
Racers.
a good game.
Yeah,
That's a good game. That's a very good
There was
video
like,
game.
I got 3 games or something like that. I didn't play any of them because I think I already owned them and they were just old as fuck. So
Well, even then, this was an era where a lot of multiplayer-based games were starting to kind of creep in with their gross microtransactions and DLC. It's map packs for like COD games, which is super egregious, especially once you get to like Modern Warfare 3, where the campaign isn't even that long.
Sure.
And then they had like 5 maps, and they're like, "Do you want to feel included? You really need to pop us another $20."
Because that was back when you could only play against people that had the maps.
Yep.
You know,
You'd be locked
they
out
didn't
and
just
they'd
give
tell
you
you.
all of them and
Yeah.
then rely on the
exactly.
microtransactions.
And that's the fear of missing out.
FOMO.
That's actually what psychologists are starting to call it now too. There have been several studies on it.
Oh shit!
And they actually use this as
Oxford
tactics,
Dictionary is going to be updated soon.
Especially
I have a FOGO. I have a
EA
fear of
games.
going out. I'd rather just. You might miss out on something like, fuck that. I have a PlayStation. I have everything I needed.
So you are in your element right now. Yeah.
Some other like really important DLC for the 360, the BioShock Burial at Sea expansion packs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When those came out,
They seemed very pricey at the time, but I still think they were worth it.
they were worth it though, in my opinion.
That's good. BioShock 2 had Minerva's Den, which is
arguably one of the best
better
DLCs.
than BioShock 2.
BioShock
According
2
to people.
plays way better than BioShock 1.
And we all remember the game that I got second place in a tournament in a bar, Guitar Hero 2.
I remember that. Yeah, I was
Yes,
there.
there was Guitar Hero 2 and 3, and Rock Band also had substantial amounts of DLC.
I pumped
What
a
was
lot
it,
of
1,200, something like that?
It's crazy. Rock Band, if you wanted all DLC as of July 12th, 2012, it would cost you $9,150.10.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
Games these days, I've heard, I think it was from EA, someone said, you need to make sure your games can cost up to at least $1,000 if people want to pay it.
But now, hold on. I'm actually going to defend this one this time.
You can choose what you're getting.
You can choose what you're getting, but it's also music that needed to be licensed anyway.
Yeah.
So the cost
It was
of
like
these
iTunes.
things, I know, and it's
The ultimate
just like
microtransaction.
why would you be able to get like 20 albums for $1 a piece? It's not. This isn't egregious to me.
Yeah.
I
mean,
really don't think
Just
so.
based on DLC, I agree with you. I don't think it was that.
These artists need to get paid.
That wasn't-
Select what you want. You have the original game with a ton of content.
You're getting what you want instead of you have to buy these 10 outfits for your character to get this story mode.
Yeah.
You want this song? Get this song. I remember playing the Mjolnir mix of Halo on Guitar Hero, feeling like the nerdiest shit I've ever done, but also, I'm pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't think is cool is in Dragon Age Origins, which I haven't
Yes.
played, when like a character will actually come up and talk to you about the DLC.
It did make me buy the DLC, and I wasn't even a huge fan of
that's
this game.
right.
So I didn't-
Wasn't
Yeah.
it the dwarves or something?
It was a ton of characters. It was party members.
They would come up to you and suggest like,
Alistair.
if you want to go to this castle, go pay $7.
Right.
Is that what would happen?
No, it was more or less like
Must gather your wallet before venturing forth.
there would be like a
What is
blank
your credit card number, dog?
more or less this is something they do in Destiny now, big time.
Yep.
There's a place on the map you can kind of see.
Oh, sure.
And it's like it's kind of faded out. And they'll say like in this nation of blah blah blah, there is also something going on, like a civil war or something. Don't quote me on that. That's not really what's happening in the game. You'll look it up online because this was an era where guides blew up and everyone was making one. And so you type it in and you'd be like, what's up with this place? When do I unlock it? And it's just like, oh, you gotta pay $15 for this.
Or the full characters that you
Yeah.
had to download. You couldn't get party members. You know, you had to pay extra.
Well, that continued with BioWare for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 did something that was very offensive at this time, too.
I think that a
Jill
lot
Valentine?
of things. You're
That's,
talking,
of course, what I was talking about was Jill Valentine. Why
ta-
did Barry not get a character?
God damn it.
You're talking specifically about Ultimate, releasing Ultimate.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the on-disc DLC. Characters
yeah.
and outfits that were included.
Yep. That's horrible.
And I know that the game wasn't balanced, and they could have adjusted characters with some subtle patches, which they refused to do. But the moment someone found out that you could hack Magneto's skins that weren't even downloadable yet, they
Listen to
patched
Hair the
that
Dog
shit
Cast Unleashed.
like next day.
Right.
Yeah. They probably pulled an all-nighter for that
And
shit.
that was one of the first instances of on-disc DLC where they're locking you out
Yes.
of content that they have ready to go.
I remember when this happened and just reading the articles that came out and just Capcom spokesman just trying to give these mealy-mouth responses on why they were justified in doing it. It's
what's
fun.
You know what's nuts about all of this, and this is something that I found when I read a lot of older posts from articles from back then, is that people were incensed all throughout the comment sections. And I'm just like, wait a minute, you still got it.
Just give it a couple of years.
You
You'll be
still
fine with
bought it. Literally, if there was like this revolution among gamers and they said, well, I'm not going to buy something like this because it's being predatory, none of this would still exist. If we all collectively chose not to deal with it, it wouldn't be a problem anymore. However, we've still got FOMO. And we've got collectors, and people want a complete version of something.
FOMO is one of the easiest ways to trick people into playing. There were games like Farmville, EA's Simpsons Tapped Out, and Clash of Clans were implementing new ways to get microtransactions into games.
Do you guys remember how big Farmville
Yes.
was, and how many of your family members were
Zynga.
never played games, were playing fucking Farmville, saying like, "Come visit my farm."
Right.
I just bought this hoe.
Oh, it's free. I'll download that. And then grandma's suddenly like, well, I can spend $5. I got my social security check. I'll do it.
Right.
And then you go in a year later and grandma's got the biggest farm in the world, but no one gives a fuck about Farmville anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They made a lot of money off of that.
Oh my god,
They did. We should also say this came with the advent of the smartphone because everyone started to own one. This mostly we can attribute to Apple.
Advent of the smartphone and advent of the rise of social media because all this shit was baked into like Facebook and all it.
I think before we get to the anger and the truly outrageous stuff,
I'm fucking ready, Brad.
Pacino, be careful. Put that gun down. Sorry. We need to hear from some of our other friends at the Greenlit Podcast Network.
What a great idea!
Download these other content from the Greenlit Podcast Network. We'll be right back.
Excellent. The entrapment effect, the only reason Overwatch is popular.
And Catherine Zeta-Jones dips beneath lasers.
I was just thinking about that fucking ass going underneath.
The entrapment
yoga
effect
pants.
was something very different for me.
I loved it a lot, guys.
And
got
we're
Betty
back.
I've got Betty White on mine.
That was the first half. We covered just a lot of DLC, a little bit of MTX, which is what they use for microtransactions sometimes. But
Yes.
now we can get really fucking angry.
This is the anger part of the
For me, it really starts at
a
online
tale of two
passes.
halves of the raw dogs.
It starts at EA and the Project $10. The $10 initiative where they want to start squeezing an extra $10 out of people.
Yes,
This was when they started releasing codes inside of their games where there were single-use codes to access the Cerberus network on
Yep,
Mass
the
Effect
online.
2.
Yep.
And if you bought a used copy, you'd have to spend $10 or $15 in order to use this stuff because
Extra, which actually did in stores like GameStop, these used places, it did deflate the cost of them. It did work the way they intended.
Yeah.
The moment that this actually showed up in these games, the price was cut like $10 in most GameStops.
was it really? Okay.
It took maybe like 5 months, but it was basically all there.
I will, before we get really angry, when they came out with the $10 upcharge, or if you bought the game used or just to have access, I did think that was okay of them to do that. But I understood at least that
only two companies really pursued this where they gave you the single code and then you'd have to pay more. EA and Ubisoft.
Yep.
EA was the first one to really push it on you with like, if you want to play Tiger Woods PGA Tour 11 online, you got to pay an extra $10 if you didn't buy it originally. We don't care.
As someone who bought a lot of
massage
used
it a little
games, sometimes you'd open it up, you'd pop in that disc, and you'd say, oh, I'll check out to see if this code still works, because a lot of people still left it in the sleeve area. Lo and behold, no one even fucking touched it.
Sure.
Do you guys want to know my secret back in the day, which you really can't do anymore
Ooh, tell us.
because Blockbusters and video game rental places are all closed.
Oh.
But you'd grab the disc behind the DVD or like the game behind the game case. They'd leave all that shit in the game case. I opened up all the game cases, took pictures of all the DLCs that were included as codes, just took them home and downloaded all of them. They never got a hold of that, understood that at all. With the GameCube to get the Legend
That's a life hack.
Fucking monster.
with the Legend of Zelda
That's
to
why
get
they went out of business.
the 64 and Nintendo games disc for the GameCube, you had to have proof of 10 different purchases.
The Master Collection or
I
something?
went to the GameCube section, took pictures of all the games, went
I got
online,
it.
I got my fucking disc.
Now, hold on. I got mine for pre-ordering Wind Waker.
Well,
Right.
you could do that, but I also
That's
just
the
went,
easy way out, you
I also just
fucking-
went to the video
I knew I was
place and
gonna
got
like it.
pictures. I remember thinking of that life hack and thinking I just broke the internet or something.
Guys,
you know?
when I was going to the video store, if you would have shown me a phone with a fucking camera on it, I would have blew my mind, man.
Yeah, dude.
What? You have a phone in your pocket?
You're from the future, man.
And it's better than most cameras today.
That's right. Yeah.
Online
fucking wild.
passes didn't last too long.
No, the backlash was too large, and literally they found out that people weren't playing online as much.
Yeah.
Because people were just like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. Why the fuck would I do this? And this is a good version of where blowback actually worked in gamers'
Well,
favor.
EA says that they were responding to the negative outcry, but also there was forthcoming DRM changing measures in the upcoming like Xbox One and PS4 where they wouldn't be allowed to do this. So they said, "Oh, we're just listening to the people who are upset." No, you're not. No, you're not, EA. You know you can't make money soon, so you're doing that. Now, when I got into the Assassin's Creed series, Uplay never made sense to me. I don't know. I didn't know why I had.
Still exists.
It still exists. Now,
It's disgusting.
What do you?
Sign into your Uplay account.
One aspect I like about Uplay is since I play Assassin's Creed on multiple consoles, I'm happy that it kind of coalesces all of my progress into one account.
I mean, great though.
look.
You have to be Ubisoft fanboy in order for it to be like.
I've played almost every Assassin's Creed. I would prefer that I can get Edward Kenway's outfit right away. I don't know. Instead of spending $4.99 on it.
I didn't mind their point system where you would earn stuff in game and then that would unlock stuff. I don't think that's a bad version of any of this. I thought that was actually pretty cool.
It's one of those things where when you can earn points in system, that's great. Once you have to start paying money to get, when you can pay money to get points, that's when it becomes a little sketchy because then that's pay to win instead of, hey, you've played 10 hours, you want this new ship? That's fun.
At the same time, they still presented you with the opportunity, like you can either play the game to earn this, or we're just going to give it to you right away. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is super guilty of this.
I have a bone to pick with that, and I think a lot of people have talked about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, praised it well, but in the early days
Good
of that
game.
that was the first Assassin's Creed where you had to grind to play the next mission.
Yes.
or
Keep that shit out of my single player experiences.
Or get the boost
Yes.
pack, and you can earn experience points at double the rate, and a time saver.
buy 10 Mountain Dews and you'll get experience faster.
So yeah,
Make sure it's the game fuel kind.
they ended up patching that out, but they ended up patching it out after they already made their money
Huge.
off it.
Well, I mean, like,
and
people-
it pissed me off.
So this was EA's kind of
No, you're
first
right.
blatant
I'm
attempt
sorry.
to get some extra money. Besides online passes, though, there's also the concept of season passes. We kind of briefly mentioned them before.
I'm curious about both of you, what your opinion on season passes are. Where do you draw the line? What's too much and what is way too little for you?
$30 for 2 new mini story campaigns. Perfect.
Yep.
If you give me a handful of new skins with that, fun. If you give me new Batmobile variations, sure. Season passes, if BioShock Infinite, when they released it back in the day, if there's just like $80 for the season pass version where you get eventually all the DLC.
They did that.
And
Definitely.
Smash Brothers, they released, you want to get all the DLCs, you spend this
Character
one.
packs, yeah.
I like that. And I think
That's
that's
okay.
a fun way to extend the longevity of your game.
Same
As
here.
long as you're releasing a full game right away, then I'm okay with it.
Yes, and does it represent a good value? That's what I look at it.
Well, that's where it gets shady, though, isn't it? How do you know when a game is complete?
I will give Ubisoft credit. I bought the season passes for most of the Assassin's Creed since.
And so you got like
probably
what? The Fate of Atlantis and then the other one?
Legend of the First Blade or something.
Sure.
And then you got Assassin's Creed 3 remastered with Liberation. You got a lot of shit. I thought that was a pretty decent value.
My favorite season pass variation is when you wait a year and a half and then you spend $10
Yep.
and then you get all of everything that was like a $90 release.
I was going to say, yeah, didn't you get the Assassin's Creed games like for fucking dirt cheap?
Well, they're
Yeah, I
dirt
did.
cheap now. They're on sale every sale.
with
Right.
all of the content.
With all
on
of
it.
the
All you have to
DLC.
do is
Pretty
get any Game of the Year edition.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey now, you'll get everything for like $20, $25.
Yeah.
if you get it on the right sale. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have sales every month on the PS4 anyways.
Well, yeah, you go to even like humblebundle.com. Like you can just search Assassin's Creed individually and it will usually just be dirt cheap.
Rule of thumb with AC is just
Wait
wait
a-
till Black Friday, and that's when they do.
Or wait 5 months.
Do you know what the first season pass was?
I'm not sure. No.
LA Noir?
Yeah. LA Noir. Rockstar offered the Rockstar Pass for LA Noir. that would bundle content you normally probably wouldn't buy, but making it seem like a deal. It's one of those things where we know you don't want these things, but if we give you them plus this thing you wanted, we can charge an extra $5 and make it seem like a good thing. People just thought that was great. Season passes from day one, people were, we understand, we're kind of on board with this. Mortal Kombat 11 followed suit right afterwards as well. Mm-hmm. Fighting games, I'm not sure if they maybe need season passes. Character packs, sure, whatever.
That's technically that's the new content, though.
Yeah.
It's stages, and because stages are literally just backdrops, they're cosmetic.
Yep, but when you add Turtles to like a DC game or whatever that was, when I saw that Turtles trailer, I didn't even play the game.
Injustice.
But I wanted to get that just for that.
So did I.
Yeah, just because I'm a Turtles fan. I know Josh, if he didn't have that game, he picked it up because of it.
Absolutely.
I liked it that Hellboy was in it. That's my guy.
Hellboy was in there, yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Overall, though, I think season passes, fine idea. I think that's a cool way to extend a game story rather than you have to wait an extra 7 years for the next game, or for Assassin's Creed another 2 months.
I think when you break down
I
think when you break down critically to Japanese games in comparison to the West, Japan is way more likely to be cash cows on this. Think of all of the editions of Street Fighter 2. Literally off the top of your head, it's probably like 20 versions.
I saw the Street Fighter collection, Street Fighter 2 collection, whatever it is, for the Switch on sale, and I looked at it, I'm like, that's a good price. And it's got 30 games, and all of them were Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
Just different, like Turbo 2.
It's mind-boggling how often they were able to re-release that.
If you can get away with selling you a full game versus a DLC.
But that's what Persona 5...
Even though it didn't
They were
exist
selling
back in-
character skins as full games, essentially.
But that's what Persona 5
Honestly,
and Persona 5 Royale are.
Play as the
It's
bosses
the same
in this
exact
one.
thing. I will bet you $1 million they will never sell that content to you as DLC. I think they literally reconstructed the game. Early on, in a lot of their like DS, 3DS games, definitely don't have that type of greediness.
Dylan, will you take us to Angertown and tell us a little bit about what a loot box is?
Loot box, by definition.
Make me and Tom fucking angry right now.
Oh my God.
All right. Loot boxes, an in-game reward or purchase with a random virtual good contained within. This usually induces a win state.
That's that post-coital clarity, right?
Right.
Of which is purely a gamble. Often, there isn't a desired outcome.
Tom just drank an entire beer.
I'm so angry right now.
Often, there's a desired outcome of which there is no guarantee of actually achieving.
You know what's disgusting? That a lot of loot boxes actually emulate that feeling you get at casinos watching slot machines, like watching stuff spin.
Now, Brad.
Well, it is the same. It hits the same synapses.
It's absolutely the same thing.
Yeah. So can I ask you guys a question? Have you bought a loot box ever?
I have.
No.
It was on Overwatch.
Me neither.
I haven't. So the first loot box I experienced was Battlefield 1. My friends were playing it, so I bought the cheap. It was sale, so I picked it up. And whatever their war chest, whatever they call it, the first time I saw it, because they're smart, because they give you some right away, and you get excited
First
about
hit's
it.
free, baby.
And
when you're leveling up in the beginning, you get a lot of them.
The first time I saw one and they pried the box open and I got some new guns, I was like, that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then what is also cool is they give you one like every week or like every couple days you log in. It gets you to want to come back because you don't want to miss that loot box you might get. I was like, this is cool. But then I went online to multiplayer and I was like, I don't have any of these guns. Yeah. I can't compete right now.
Look at that cool face mask that guy's wearing.
Battlefront 1 was egregious.
He's dressed like Bart Simpson. I can't play against him.
He's got the cool Scout Trooper armor from Return of the
He's
Jedi.
Darth Vader, and I'm Jabba the Hutt. That would be, granted, a very cool skin.
Dude, I would be Jabba the Hutt in every one of these things. No joke.
I'm going to take loot boxes. I think the core idea of what it is, all the way back to the Pokemon trading card game for me. Now, it's similar in that you're spending a certain amount of money to get a random selection of items. Statistically, you might get something you really want, but you won't get it. To me, it's a lot like getting a pack of cards.
Yes.
The difference is, though, a pack of cards has a physical in-world.
You can trade it with your
value.
buddy.
You can trade it.
I got this fucking garbage pail kid already. Here's Booger Butt. Give me fart face.
Hale Jordan, who's basically Hal Jordan, but
Right.
he's the Green Lantern.
Oh my God.
Some people will say the first loot box was in MapleStory. I mean, this was over there in China for.
I don't know
in
anyone who's
2004.
played MapleStory. I know what it is. It's
And
a
there's-
side-scrolling MMO.
And there's Puzzle and Dragons, which was the first mobile game to earn over $1 billion from their loot boxes. But it was FIFA,
Yeah.
09 Ultimate Team.
That's an easy target because most people who play these sports games are casual video game players. People who aren't in the know. Sports games are rife with this. Even today, when you're talking about NBA 2K and stuff like that, it's crazy. I have NBA 2K19 for the Switch because it has like Giannis on it, and it was literally $3 when I bought it.
Yeah.
But then I get into the actual game itself, and you're looking at it, and you're just like, oh, fuck, I literally cannot play this game without spending more money.
I heard that
Are you
one
kidding
was
me?
the most egregious out of any of them.
And with FIFA, soccer is the most popular sport on the planet.
Yes.
The world.
So Belgium has made it illegal for them to be releasing Ultimate Team like these.
And it didn't do any good.
These card packs there. Well, it did. But the problem is professional FIFA players in Belgium are pissed off. Like we literally can't compete anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue.
That's perfectly illustrating why it's pay to win.
When you have like these countries with decent governments who actually care about how the consumers are being
great
treated.
beer.
Yeah, and waffles. God.
Oh, yeah.
When you actually have people who care about this stuff, they're like, well, no, we can't let children deal with any of this stuff. And then EA's like, yeah, you weren't a big market to begin with, so what the fuck ever, we don't care. And literally, it's no skin off their back. They have such a minimal loss for this. Like Brad said, like a professional player.
They literally can't compete. Ultimate Team, you convert cash to points.
Yep.
You forget how much you're spending because you just have not real cash anymore. It's a closed economy where it just cycles back and forth. Drop rates, incredibly poor. And it's one of those things where the more you spend in a day, drop rates will start to slightly go up. So it's rewarding people to spend more in a day. Ultimate Team, as of 2017, was worth more than $800 million.
It's insane.
Just for FIFA.
Yeah.
Now, when your business executives and your shareholders start seeing these numbers, they're going to expect more the next year. And
That's
which it
capitalism, my boy.
goes. Exactly. But
Maximize that value for your shareholders.
Tom is dressed as the Monopoly guy right now.
That's right. Hey, everybody. You're not in jail.
Is that how you think the Monopoly guy sounds?
I got 2 years and I'll look
Do
like
not
the guy.
press
It's fine.
spend. Do not collect 200 map points.
That's right.
Brad, this is literally called chasing, which makes you willing to spend more to receive desired effect.
Y'all got any more of them loot packs?
There's also, when we're talking about loot boxes especially, there's a karmic aspect to this, surprisingly enough, in which people believe that if their luck has been consistently poor, they are due a change in that luck if they continue.
Oh, the first 10 loot boxes I got crap. This next one's got to be.
It
When
reminds
I go
me
to
of Gil from
casinos-
The Simpsons.
If I'm at a casino, it's eventually my turn. If I keep putting money in, it'll eventually be my turn.
Absolutely.
There are even some loot boxes that show you how close you were to getting something rare. If it's this color, it represents this amount of rarity. So like yellow is exotic,
Yeah.
purple is legendary.
At least in Destiny, you
have
never
to earn it,
but you
yeah.
never can buy the engrams.
Yep.
Destiny was only cosmetic. So here's EA with making so much money on FIFA. This is a multiplayer experience. It's online. We need to put this shit into a single player game. And a lot of people contribute the first loot box, I think incorrectly, to Mass Effect 3 because FIFA, to me, this is clearly the loot box system. They just don't call it that. But
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 Galaxy at War multiplayer,
I did it.
it launched with purchasable equipment packs. The more you had, the better you were at the game because you had the edge.
I whooped
Yeah.
serious ass because I bought all of it.
I keep forgetting Mass Effect 3 even had a multiplayer.
I never played it. I never played it.
It is
shit.
it is actually brilliant. It's a good multiplayer video game.
How's the ending?
How's the ending? None.
I don't know. I didn't spend enough money.
They
There's no
changed it.
ending. It's literally so a lot of it
It's
really
DLC.
break. Do you remember the final battle in Mass Effect 3? It's literally recreations of that in a lot of ways.
Against the kid?
A lot of it is just
Matrix
waves and
kid?
waves of enemies.
Oh, yeah.
And you're competing with other people to kill more enemies.
This single player game.
Yeah.
Get it done sooner. Slap something on there for the ending. We don't give a fuck. But you need to charge a lot of money.
And now it goes in everything.
Can you make that gun worth $10? Hold off. Don't release that gun. Don't do it right away.
Now hold on.
Make the gun purple. It'll be worth an extra $1. Trust me. They'll pay it, those fucks.
Make it work. I'll buy you something nice.
I used to get cussed out on this game just because I had paid for all the shit. At the end of it, you just feel like the most corrupt king that's ever existed.
It seems like whenever we had an idea of how much people were spending on microtransactions or DLC, it always seemed to be when like a kid stole their mom's credit card.
There's been a lot of people who
That's the truth.
had gambling problems and addictions. There's a lot of people that have come forward and said that I used to spend half of every paycheck on FIFA. because they needed to be better at the game, and that's what they did is they went and played it. If Mario Kart had microtransactions and character packs or whatever loot boxes,
They would own Nintendo.
your neighbors,
Nintendo HQ would be right across this wall.
because every time we podcast at Tom's, all we hear is Yahoo and blue
Fucking
shells.
Mario Kart.
So we're going to experience a lot of people coming up within this next generation who have gambling addiction. And a lot of this extends from the fact that parents started buying their kids smartphones. If they bought their kid a smartphone, they're like, I'm going to get him these apps that he wants. So they're putting their credit card information on these phones. I mean, people have gotten wise to it now. Do you remember in the early 2010s where you would just hear articles about how some kid would rack up $50,000 on some shitty like Angry Birds or something like that?
And that's
Those are the obvious stories that are easy to...
They're obvious.
They're the ones that come forward. For every one of those, though, I think there are...
people who spent $500. It's like, I had a friend who visited phone sex chat lines just to talk to girls.
What's wrong with that, man?
Dylan, Tom is a cam
I'm in the
girl.
room.
Tom is a cam girl.
Oh, shit.
I'm a Cam Tom.
If you follow Bunny Princess 44,
Bunny
ignore
Princess.
everything we just said.
Hop, 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 right, Tom? That's
One
your
Tom,
catchphrase?
2 cups.
It's just Tom drinking beer out of 2 cups.
I had too much beer. I had too much beer.
People did not get what they came for.
No. Wow.
So I know Amy Hennig with that Star Wars game that was canceled. I heard
what was it called?
Project
Smugglers
Ragtag?
or
Project
Ragtag. Thank you.
I heard part of the reason that got canceled was because there were no microtransactions. There were no opportunities for EA to continue making money, and they were so pissed that FIFA's making this much. What are you doing that makes this worth it?
Right. I know that was one of the reasons. And I think her stance was, well, this is a third-person adventure game like Uncharted, like the games I usually do, you know? Like, we're not really into that, but
It's a single-player game.
When's the last time you experienced a single-player EA game?
Jedi Fallen Order.
Were there loot
Shadow of
boxes or
War?
anything in that? I've never played it.
No, because, well, they specifically said there will be no loot boxes in this game.
That probably actually made it sell better. Maybe that's something.
And then 2 months after they released it, they introduced loot boxes.
I mean, well, this was like the first Star Wars game to come out after Battlefront 2.
Infamously
Let's say
is one of the
it's
worst
probably,
examples.
If you're going to put the poster child on
4,500 hours
loot boxes
to get
in microtransactions.
to get other like characters essentially, and so that's basically spending more than a full-time job trying to earn these things.
Yes, but it's just so fucking ingenuous of these companies. They unleash the problem. So in EA's case, fucking microtransactions, fucking, I can't pronounce this fucking word. I'm sorry. Microtransactions.
It's like saying Voldemort's name. You sound gross saying microtransactions.
It's like they unleash the plague on the world. They start this fucking thing, and then they play the pariah. We heard you, and you know what? This game, not gonna have any. Look at us. We are now altruistic. We are.
Isn't that so
It's like,
fucked?
oh, go fuck yourself.
And
Really?
You mentioned EA started this. It's not completely popularized in what people call it, but a lot of people refer to it as the Wilson loot box. Because Andrew Wilson, who is now the CEO of EA, came up with the loot box. His definition was pay to win, progression based, and gambling based.
Which was also Wilson Phillips' first name.
Yeah.
Before they changed it.
It wouldn't have worked.
Yep.
Yeah. There'd be more like pay to listen transactions going on. So loot boxes are a plague. Team Fortress 2 was one of the first major games to transition to the freemium model, where I think that's a unique approach. We're going to let you start playing the game for free. Fortnite,
Dota.
Star Trek Online, Lord of the Rings Online. They realize that
I find this
it's better to have more people playing and then some people spending money.
I find this to actually kind of be
Apex Legends.
maybe a little grosser. For a while,
At least Fortnite is only cosmetic.
No,
Right.
now hold on. This isn't all true. Now, Fortnite used to be a game you could buy, and it was a mode. It was called Save the World, where you have to over a series of time you have to build a base to fight off.
It
hordes
was
of
not always
zombies.
a battle royale
It was
first.
a zombie game.
I'm thinking of Overwatch. You're right. Overwatch is
Yes.
just cosmetic. Fortnite, you couldn't actually like pay to get better stuff.
Yes, in terms of like the
They
battle
changed-
royale
they
mode,
changed it all,
in the
yeah.
battle royale mode, which they realized quickly was the most popular mode. It's same as like PUBG or something like that.
yeah.
You're not actually getting like boosts. This is cosmetic at the same time, but the amount they're charging for these skins is insane.
This is akin to a drug dealer giving you your first hit free,
Yeah.
and then you want it.
Well, do you want the fish head mask? you better ask your mom for more V-Bucks, motherfucker, because
And
they
there's that-
created
there's-
their own goddamn currency.
There's a DLC kid. I just take money from my mom's dresser drawer.
Where do I put the dollar in the fucking slot?
Where do your parents keep your money?
If I ever have a kid, she's gonna be,
Oh, you
he or she's
analog
gonna be,
kid,
she's
you.
gonna be so fucking pissed at me because I'm gonna be like, I'm not buying that shit for you. Are you fucking stupid?
I think there's gonna
Go
be
play
lots of reasons.
I'm gonna be like,
He's gonna be pissed at
I'm
you.
gonna be like, oh yeah, that too. But I'm gonna be like, play Mario 3. It's great.
I have no issue with premium models or loot boxes even if they're purely cosmetic.
Yeah, I'm same here.
If Destiny, like, and that's not a premium one, but if like Destiny, it's only I can do different dances or have different like shades
But
for
you
my
remember-
armor. I want the gameplay to be intact,
Yes.
and multiplayer to be sound. If it's pay to win, that's gross.
I'm trying to approach this from if I was like a young kid, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same anymore. I don't think our opinions really matter. I think we're old fucking fogies.
They never did.
Because for them now it's a social thing. If you don't have the thing, congratulations. You're a fucking loser.
Yes, and there are kids that need to. They're desperate to be as cool as their friends. They
Yeah.
want to. Hey, did you see that I got the fish head mask?
Yeah.
Do you see that I look like Bart Simpson's such a terrible example. I look
Whatever,
like
keep going with
Ben,
it. I like
look
it.
like Ben 10, or
Ben 10.
I look like Bubble Guppies.
That's still a thing.
I'm Jimmy Neutron.
I got the Jimmy Neutron skin. Did
Are
you see
the
that?
Wiggles still cool?
Absolutely
Dude, did you see the
not.
Fortnite Wiggles content pack?
Tom auditioned for the Wiggles. They said no.
Right. The only one out there fucking rocking a Howdy Doody.
I didn't even know what song, so
So bringing it
Sorry.
back.
yes, sorry.
I love the Wiggles, hate microtransactions, Brett.
Another big gambling economy created from this was CS:GO reselling skins. People were betting cosmetic skins in online like battles, which are they have a cash value now because people are spending money on them.
Team Fortress 2 got away with this too.
This is something that got way out of control before
Yes.
people realized what was going on.
That
It's
was a
the Diablo
big story
3
a few
model
years
as well.
ago.
What do you mean Diablo 3 model?
They had an auction house when it first came out.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And immediately people were very angry. Now, Diablo 3 redeemed itself. It became an actually good game. I played it probably several times
Took
through.
a few years. They
took
did
a-
it, and they got,
Yeah.
gosh bless them for persisting. And
Well, there's another aspect to it. Providing auction houses, I think a lot of people were paying attention to the release of Diablo 3. I think a ton of these companies were like, can we really make something out of this? Like, if you made a percentage gain off of someone's auction choice, can you imagine that? We give you the platform, now you sell, and basically we've literally created our own economy.
yeah, oh, it's like Steam.
Wild.
There you go.
Well, Steam, yeah.
Gabe
but
Newell's is getting
And
fat.
eventually, once there's a cash value for game content, there's going to be people in countries such as China and other spot where they are paying people less than minimum wage to live in a click farm, and they are grinding out things that have a real cash value that they're making money on. There's a whole like seedy underbelly to what's
Yes.
going on with
Korea too, yeah.
these.
South Korea and North Korea, they don't let them have anything.
It's just strange to have in-game items be worth a real cash value that can be traded.
Well, and-
which is only that's only possible online.
Since China's economy is so restricted and their internet access is so restricted, the freemium model is the most popular model that they have there, bar none.
Yeah.
We do not get
Those Asian territories get that online free Call of Duty.
They do.
And that's only like available.
Well, a lot of the times, companies that charge something for a base game here will just give it out free there because they know that they're basically all whales.
Yeah, and pirates.
Battlefield 4 and Halo 5, they both have rec packs, loot boxes. A lot of games do that. One that caused a lot of issues for people was Shadow of War. A complete single-player experience.
I'll get you Italian.
You're probably the only one here who's played it, Brad.
I didn't play it when it was released.
No, I know.
Douche.
I love those games. It was Shadow of Mordor was not Game of the Year material, but
was
as
an
far
okay
as
game.
an Assassin's Creed clone, that is one of the best.
Assassin's Creed meets Batman.
The free running was actually better in that game at the time.
And the Nemesis system was fun, but
Yeah.
I didn't play. I generally don't play games right when they come out. But Shadow of War, when it was released, included 4 different loot boxes for a single-player game, and you reached a point in the game. You either have to grind for 4 hours, which is just pointless grinding, or
Yeah.
you can just spend money.
Yeah.
And this was the first major instance of a single player game where you're kept out. You spend money if you want to go faster. Otherwise, take your fucking time. People were very upset. They eventually had to take all of the loot box system completely out of the game. And I didn't play it until then. Thought it was fine. Loved it. But I didn't play it until way after that shit was all patched out.
Yeah, that caused quite the kerfuffle for sure. I never played that game.
It's good.
Because of that reason.
Well, I waited until it dropped down and they got it all patched out. And it was a great game. It's one of those things I think where you have a quality game that someone is forcing you to put money barriers into.
Yes.
And fuck EA because they are worse than anybody. It's one thing to have your multiplayer online things. That's bad.
Yeah.
But to take what is a single player, this is just someone playing in the comfort of their own home.
I think.
Imagine in Skyrim if they locked out a town and there was a guard at that town that said, "Well, you'll need to visit your local."
I got this
game
arrow in my
barrister."
knee. Help get it out.
Spend
25
$30 or you have to be another 30 levels up.
Grind away, baby.
Yeah.
We'll see you in either 3 weeks or you can get in now. Where does your mom keep her credit card though?
So
No, I watched a great video by Jim Sterling.
I was
today.
just going to bring that up.
The Jimquisition. That guy's the fucking shit.
Oh, we
And
love
he
Jim.
does not like
Jim, if you want to be
Oh.
on, I would love to talk to Jim.
Or EA.
I would love
EA
to talk
wants to
to
come
you.
Or Konami.
We
Or Ubisoft.
I'm like, yeah, if we can get
prefer
any
Jim.
big name. If we can get any big name, whatever. But one of the things he brought up, why do you have to grind in a video game? Like, who said that was some sort of standard that you had to abide by?
Right.
And that's still
Final
true.
Fantasy 1.
Listen, at the time,
All jokes aside.
whatever.
Biggest offender.
All jokes aside.
Yeah.
But that wasn't offering you to pay to play. It wasn't like pay to win. Like you had the deal.
Do you want the Knights of the Round materia? Spend $2
Yeah.
now. I did buy 10 Butterfingers to get bonus DLC for FF7 Remake.
Hypocrite?
Hey,
Just kidding.
For the
I get-
remake?
for the remake, if you buy like 10...
Are you fucking kidding me?
If you buy like...
Still do that shit?
If you buy 10 Butterfingers, you get like 4 exclusive pieces of armor and 2 summons. Plus you get 10 Butterfingers. There's a real world value there.
I guess you can trade them.
And those are Butterfingers I was going to buy anyways.
Now, did we talk about whales?
That's how I make most of my
Well,
purchases.
so the trick is, the first thing you do is when someone logs onto your free game, you say, this piece of DLC is worth $30 or whatever it is. And then you offer to them shortly later for $10. And then you get them to buy...
What a deal.
That's
you
my
get-
opportunity cost.
You get them to
Yeah.
buy one thing, and then you've broken the barrier. They're like, it's okay to spend money now. Then it's okay to gradually make them buy more things.
Right.
But the trick is, you give someone like perceived value,
Yes.
and drop it way down.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
why
you pull
Mass
them in.
Effect Andromeda is on sale all the time. It's worth $20. It's only $8. Nope, it's worth $8. That's where that is actually the roof.
One of the things that I was trying to go for with this is that by us being gamers, all of us here, if they studied us, are technically 5 times more impulsive than the regular person.
There's a large spectrum of what gamers
There's a
are,
spectrum.
though.
No, there's a spectrum. But I think that we're more likely to say, if something pops up in a game, we are the ones who are likely to say, like, we're the ones doing the calculations. Is this worth it? Is this not worth it? And if it's a shitty amount of money and we have a bit of luxury money hidden within, I'm guilty of this right now, currently. It's $2.50, whereas that could actually mean something to someone else. If you're a gamer, especially if Gen X, early millennial, you've got a bit more than the usual people. So, kablamo, you are the person they're aiming at.
I think there's a common brain wiring for
Yeah.
different tiers, like Brad, you said, different tiers of gamer.
Yeah.
You know, your casual gamer.
It's going specifically for the weak points in someone's gambling psychology where they know how to get someone started. And it's also an addiction philosophy where
Yeah.
once they need it, you spend more money to get more loot boxes in one day. All right, here's a shield. I like this shield. I need to keep going. Or even progression in a level. Say you're playing one of those free running games, whatever they are, on those running games
Temple
on
Run.
the App Store. Temple Run. You get to level 4 and you've unlocked this.
Yes.
But you died, so you don't get to keep that progress. You lose this achievement, you lose what you just unlocked. I need to spend money now.
Yeah.
It is preying on psychological weaknesses in people that it's targeting them. And it is gross, but it's what companies do. It's what people do. I mean,
It's what
people
casinos do.
People are wolves. And it's one thing though, casinos are gate locked to people that are of a certain age.
Yes.
And this
Yep.
is specifically targeting kids. It's targeting everybody,
kids-
but it's not gate locked away from children.
Here's the economy that they're also going for, and that's time. Kids have all the time. They've got an excess of time. They're the ones that they need to hook. It's got nothing to do with us our age, because we're old enough to understand that things have certain values. I've still got to eat. Children don't understand that when you go to the grocery store, you're paying with money that you made working.
Right.
Whereas we all tend to. You can get your whales, the ones who will waste their entire life and, like Brad said, like half of their paycheck on the thing that they're doing at the time.
That should be in treatment.
Exactly.
That were in treatment for drugs, but then they started playing FIFA in sobriety and got fucking hooked.
Yes. It's a serious addiction thing. I know a ton of people whose grandmothers are just like they got lonely and they went off to a night of bingo and casino.
I didn't know where you were going with this. I know a ton of people whose grandmothers got lonely.
There's a lot of
This is
gambling
a
that
Green
can be
Bay
done
thing.
in that scenario.
And they wasted all of basically the inheritance that the kids were supposed to get.
God.
It's wild to me that they can still get away with this. I had a buddy of mine, he said, "Oh, Dylan, are you playing Fallout 76?" And I said, "Hell no, I'm not fucking playing Fallout 76." And he
We
says,
will not have loot boxes in our game. Have you been to the Atomic Shop, though? Because you can pay to win now. Literally nothing works in that game when it was released except the Atomic Shop.
Yep. And so he's like, "Oh, well, why don't you get it? It's like cheap right now." And I'm like, I'm not playing
It's cheap
that.
to get AIDS, too, but I don't
Well,
want
it's
it.
the same reason I didn't play
We'll
Star
go
Wars
herpes.
Battlefront 2. There's got to be a line you approach where you say, well, this is definitely not where I want this to go, and I just can't deal with it anymore. I stopped Overwatch because once you hit a certain level, it becomes, well, obviously, you have to get more experience to gain levels. And for a while there, you get a bunch of these great loot boxes, and they're cheesing it out to you, and you're just like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. And then suddenly you're at like level 20, and it takes at least
wells
3
dried up.
hours of gameplay to get back to that point, unless you're like a god level player. Oh, well, this is the entrapment effect.
So there's a few kind of gross DLCs that we haven't really talked about yet.
Sure.
One of them is Metal Gear Zombie game, whatever they called it,
Metal Gear Survive, yeah.
where you had to spend a certain amount of money to get an extra save slot.
That's Konami, though.
Fuck that. I know, but fuck that.
I think anyone who played that game deserves it.
Kojima, with his newer game, Death Stranding, has not introduced a lot of these gameplay elements.
Another aspect of DLC, Destiny 2. You don't want to spend that time grinding level 40? Here, $20, we'll put you up there.
But they also gave you Forsaken, which is arguably one of the best DLCs for any Destiny.
Well, they gave you Forsaken. I'm just talking about the fact that you can just spend money to skip the entire process.
I mean, if you listen, if I was playing a Titan and I just wanted to know what a Warlock at level 40 was, they gave it to you with that. I don't think they did a bad job with that. I honestly don't.
I think that the concept of just spending money to skip an entire character progression it's paying to win.
But it's also samey. I don't think it's pay to win.
So does that level progression translate
them
to
squeezing money
PvP
out of
then
you.
too?
I mean,
Always.
you get to use,
Okay.
It's
if you want to
squeezing-
trade weapons between characters, you can. Though.
It's
I mean, you can do
squeezing
it for
money out of
MMOs,
people.
though, right? You can just usually when new expansions come out, you can pay like $10 to level up to the recommended level.
So this is where my Final Fantasy XIV expertise actually comes into play.
Oh, baby.
Because
Wait a
I
minute.
did have a
Here we
character
go.
I built.
Been waiting.
There is actually a character I built that I just wanted to get up to it right away. And they did offer they offered the boost, and I didn't pay for it because I got like the Shadowbringers expansion. I did have a character I played all the way through the content with. But if you wanted to repeat that, I'm sorry. It's not worth your time or your effort.
Hey, Dylan,
What?
if you could sell your Final Fantasy 14 character, your best one,
okay.
what would the monetary value you think be of that character?
I've actually thought about this before.
Wow, the sunk cost of that?
Nothing less than $300.
I thought it'd be higher than that.
No,
There's a lot of characters out there, though.
I haven't been playing it for months. One of the great things about Final Fantasy 14 is that they offer you, if you really want to change your character's appearance and their race or whatever, at the end of A Realm Reborn, they give you a potion that lets you fucking do it. And they give you one for free.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But if you want more of it, you got to pay. And I think that's a little bit fair. I'm not sure if World of Warcraft actually lets you do this, but I changed my character from the ugliest looking Highlander to a really cool looking cat guy, and I didn't regret it for a fucking second. And then when I wanted to change him a little bit more, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pay that $20 for that shit. And then I did it.
Yeah. Talking about like selling characters. Remember there was an MMO called Star Wars Galaxies.
Yeah.
And
Jedis are worth a
and the
shit.
Jedi and the
Because
people that
they were
was
not
random.
like you didn't get them necessarily.
No.
and I was trying to look up, like, I know somebody sold one of their characters and for like just a phenomenal amount of money.
Yes.
And I was trying to look up.
That's like hitting the lottery.
I wouldn't leave that character though. I'd be like, now my life is dedicated to it. Because there was a 0.05 percentage rate of through character creation, and you didn't get like
You didn't get to just have more characters.
no.
Yeah.
You got your character.
Good Lord.
Talk about the ultimate loot box. Yeah.
Talk about the loot box.
Let's talk about the most downvoted comment in Reddit history.
Oh, yes.
Let's do it.
I think this is, ultimately where we're going. All right, EA, you have the Star Wars franchise. You got the biggest franchise, what is going to be
Which
the
you
most
could make an
sellable.
infinite amount of games with.
Yep, you could do anything you want, and then you release Battlefront 2.
This was the nadir.
This is where people really lost their
Microtransaction.
shit.
They locked the main characters for the multiplayer experience, such as Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and of course, who was one of the worst characters?
Horror.
BB-8.
And Horror. Yeah, and they locked Horror back there.
Bosk.
Reddit user the hotter potato. Reddit user the hotter potato determined
Clever.
It took over 40 hours of gameplay to unlock enough loot boxes just to get one of those characters.
Yep.
A Polygon article about Battlefront 2 explained how the community worked out that in order to unlock everything in the game, a player would have to play an average of over 4,528 hours of gameplay.
Yeah.
Unless you wanted to pay to win. And this is a bare bones experience. The single player was completely fucking broken, a quick experience. It was a multiplayer game, essentially.
When it was patched, it was okay, because I have played this.
Still, it was like a bite-sized experience, though. Compared to multiplayer, which is what people were playing.
At least they mocapped someone for it, you know?
And it's a pay-to-win game. And
Truly.
so they went to Reddit, and people were asking questions about it, like, why would you lock it behind this much stuff? And the most downvoted comment in Reddit history, we wanted to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment.
Like when you see Luke Skywalker in the field, you know they earned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know they spent over like 500 hours to get it. Or, they spent $500 to get it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Wow. What a shit show that was. And that prompted a nice phone call from the big mouse.
You listen right here, you motherfuckers. We all want to make money, but you don't be dicks about it. You slap a few logos, you have some fun, but this is fucking bad.
What are you doing over there? Sorry, Mr. Iger. Yeah.
I'll show you some ingredients.
Dude, I hear when Bob Iger gets mad, I hear it's like Zeus coming down from fucking Mount Olympus.
He's a Packers fan. I'd love to have a beer with the guy. But
Wow.
yeah, I bet he's fucking...
I like
he was
your
the
point. I do. That's kind of cool.
He was
actually.
the CEO of fucking Disney, man.
Hey, yeah, shit.
The guy's got to be a fucking prick.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, Bob, we'd love to have you on. I'd love to talk.
Just kidding,
I
Bob.
would love to talk to you, Bob Iger.
I've
I
got-
am obsessed with Disney amusement parks. If someone knows him that's listening, we can talk shit about Michael Eisner all day.
But
yeah,
if
we'll
that's
do
what
it.
you're into.
But I mean, when you get to the point where your licensor, Disney, hears all this rumbling on the internet about your fucking
Well, you wanna
game
know-
you licensed to
Exactly,
EA.
yeah.
And you have to call them up and say, hey, we got a movie coming out, Last Jedi? Or
It was Last Jedi at this
Last
time, yeah.
Jedi's coming out. This is some bad juju for this movie. So you
worst.
fix this fucking shit. You know?
It did give bad juju for the movie. Also, EA has done a horrible job making Star Wars games. Not just in the fact of like this DLC debacle, they just haven't made enough of them.
Instead of focusing on the games, you focused on ways to make money off of the franchise.
I'm sorry, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 1 for the Nintendo 64 is still fucking playable. So get the hell out.
Oh, man.
I still love
Other Rogue Squadrons.
being whore in Masters of Terras Kasi.
Yes.
I love being whore.
Masters of
I knew
Real
you
Life.
did.
Yes.
This is a nice
still do.
segue.
Hell yeah.
This is a nice segue into legislation. So in North America, Hawaiian state representatives Chris Lee and Sean Quinlan in November of 2017. These kinds of loot boxes and microtransactions are explicitly designed to prey upon the exploitative human psychology in the same way casino games are so designed. This is especially true for young adults who child psychologists and other experts say are particularly vulnerable. These exploitative mechanisms and the deceptive marketing promoting have no place in games being marketed to minors and perhaps no place in games at all. They also say, it's a trap. Love that. And they also say, awesome. We didn't allow Joe Camel to encourage kids to smoke cigarettes, and we shouldn't allow Star Wars to encourage our kids to gamble.
That's it.
Pay attention here,
that's it. Bob
Iger, because you have like state senators and representatives saying, comparing you to cigarettes with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Now
that is some like big stuff happening.
Here's the separation though. We've got people in office who are 60 years old, 70 years old, who don't even still understand what the internet is or what the fuck a video game is, because they'll never fucking touch it in their goddamn lives. And the reality here is that if we had people in our office who are actually representing us as people, none of this would have occurred. None of it would have occurred. There would have been legislation passed within probably a month.
It's surprising, though, because, North America, we've been very ineffective at passing any sort of legislation, but also UK, France, Germany, and Poland have all determined they're not doing anything inherently wrong. Everything's properly labeled. And if the kids are having access to their parents' cards, the
That's
companies,
on the parents,
they're not doing anything inherently wrong. Whereas you have like China, South Korea. What was great about those two is they passed legislation requiring them to state the probability odds.
Yeah, the percentage.
It's like McDonald's having to say how many calories are in a Big Mac.
That's a fair give, though. That's a fair thing to put up on the table, because
if a
parent fucking saw it and they were like, you're buying what with my credit card? Now let's see what's up here. And then it said your odds of getting this are 0.05%. The parent would be like, no.
These are the only time that they had to start publishing this information.
Yes.
Right.
Kudos to China and South Korea for that.
Yep.
Belgium and Netherlands, they've been the most aggressive about it, where they banned the sale of microtransactions of games in their countries.
Yep.
Sorry, professional FIFA players, you can't gamble here.
Or move somewhere else. I don't know.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's weird what people are willing to accept. And it's weird to me that we prop up these capitalistic things as almost like a point of pride.
Although I am happy that North America, to an extent, has agreed almost like bipartisan. We all agree this is like pretty bad. We're not sure how we're going to take care of this, but we're all like concerned.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
at least there's committees and people looking into how to take care of this.
They're giving it a looky-loo. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, though.
It depends. If we have some weird disaster that is, comes out of loot boxes for some reason, then maybe it gets more of an eye. But yeah, I was going to bring that up too, Brad, that we had bipartisan bills introduced, and the game industry does not want any fucking government.
Well, they'll shout First Amendment.
They just don't want it.
Yeah, I know they don't.
The video game
want it at all.
Industry wants to police itself.
Now here's my question, guys, and I'm going to posit this as someone who actually kind of agrees with the sentiment. I think games are worth more than $60 now.
I 100% agree with that.
Charge more.
I saw some people that were doing the numbers versus back when games cost $60 to what they are today.
Yeah, but the level of detail, the literal care you have to put in these games to make them look good. If we started paying people a little bit more, do you think that the quality of these things would just improve automatically because suddenly your budget is higher?
No. I think that
suddenly you have more people on it.
The argument that microtransactions need to exist because it costs more to make games is a fallacy. That's something that
you believe that.
Really?
I don't at all. They're saying that we need to be able to charge people over $1,000 for FIFA cards is not a valid argument.
Okay, not that.
But season passes.
But something like Red Dead 2.
If you want to say a video game is worth $80, $90 for an experience overall, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
But they're using the argument that microtransactions are necessary because video games cost more to make. That is a fallacy.
Using that as an excuse.
They're using it as an excuse, and I have a big problem with that.
If they did something like, let's say, Red Dead Redemption 2, which has the craziest amount of detail you've ever seen. There's horse balls and it poops. Sorry, that's fucking weird.
Horse ball, the testicles shrink.
The testicles shrink in the cold.
Are you joking?
No. The testicles shrink in the cold.
I'm going to just isolate that audio.
The testicles shrink. I'm going to put that on a shirt, frankly.
The testicles shrink in the cold.
Raw dogs, the testicles shrink in the cold.
That's actually really good. That's going to be the drawing for this episode.
That's on the back of the shirt. Yeah, you got sidetracked thinking about testicles.
I really
Man.
did. Now, if something like this experience where everyone was looking forward to it, and it's this crazy artistic vision, if they charged $90 and they said, that's it, we're not going to ask you for anything, even on the online mode.
Would I pay it? Absolutely.
Yes, would I do it as well?
I mean,
But it was fair.
I'll
Like,
pay you
went online-
$120 for Skyrim. You know, I know how much value I'm going to fucking squeeze out of that thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, not
And-
anymore.
and-
You've fucking already done
I
it.
wish.
I know, but-
Yeah, I wish there was a way to determine value for a game based on projected hours that you'd like be playing. That's impossible. But the fact that Persona 5, you can get over 100 hours of gameplay.
Right.
If you were to break that down per hour of gameplay,
Now, hold
or
on. A
whatever,
lot of it is a cat telling you to go to bed.
it's still valued gameplay though.
Yes,
and
it's fine.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I'd say, is a $150 experience for Tom overall because he put
Yeah.
that much time into it.
I would gladly pay that because
I played a lot of
I mean,
this.
And
Yeah.
Smash Brothers Ultimate, I would say, is worth more than $60 because you're also getting every piece
The
of music
amount.
from Nintendo, pretty
Yeah.
much.
But also just the sheer amount of characters that were in the original one. Like, I already knew I had the value right there. They included all the characters you really wanted. And then they gave you a few side ones. And they said, well, if you really want them, pay for them. You can buy them in these character packs.
That I think that's more innocent though, because we know
is.
Sakurai literally worked 100 hours a day
Yeah.
for all of the development, and then he's making this extra stuff afterwards.
it's
as
been
an auteur,
it's been
yes.
15 years since we had the last uptick of price from $50 to $60 as the standardized
Yes.
price games.
Yeah.
If they put it to 70 even, I would be like, all right. But then in Japan, like when they make a game, they literally do it based on their consumer. So like if you wanted Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball Extreme 5 or whatever the fuck they're on right now,
I would love that.
They're going to give... Yeah, I know.
Galgun,
Well, that's the thing.
Cross,
I want
DOA.
Here
Dead or
they
Alive
s-
Beach Volleyball with a zero gravity DLC.
Well, here they sell it at a loss, but if you want it in
That'd be
Japan,
terrible.
congratulations, it's already $85, $90 to begin with because they know the audience is less.
Mm-hmm.
So they put all of their heart into this game for a specific audience. It maybe isn't going to make the money they wanted. This is actually a good way. I really don't think this is technically wrong.
No, I don't
Do it
think
based
so.
on sales numbers of the series.
But I think, we've got to a point also where these have proven so lucrative
Yeah.
that if they start charging more money,
I mean, the cost of production hasn't truly gone down in terms of its physicality. So we're talking
but
Blu-rays.
games
and
games have
CDs.
never been cheaper is what the...
Yes.
I was paying $90 for fucking Strider on Genesis, back in 1990.
I would argue that
Kinda worth
the average price for a video game has gone up. People say it's still $60, but every video game
with
does
the
have
DLC.
they have an $80 edition. Almost every video game upon
Right.
release.
The
Yeah.
deluxe.
And that is
The deluxe.
to me though, that is the core game. Like not the core game, but like the actual game. If you want to get all the
All the
content
expand-
Now
for
that's-
the full game,
But that's also a trick they use.
it's also a trick they use. But when I'm going to get Kingdom Hearts 3, I'm going to get the deluxe edition that has everything. When a game comes out, if there is the $60 versus the $70, the $80,
Yeah.
if you really want to get everything that the game has, you're going to get the bigger one.
Okay, so
If you're into that game.
but my
Yeah.
but my argument might also be is that some of these deluxe editions, they're not giving you really anything extra, but they'll still charge you an extra 10
Well, for your figurine of
bucks.
Connor.
No.
If
No,
you get
I'm
the
even-
Target version, you get this sword. If you get the Walmart version, you get that sword.
Oh, yeah.
disgusting.
Exclusive variants for different
The
stores.
Walmart exclusive Red Dead Redemption 1, like fucking missions and shit. Oh,
I have them all.
That's gross in my opinion.
I don't know where at this point I would actually say like you can't do this, but you have to do that.
All right. In an ideal world, how would you have loot boxes or surprise mechanics exist? Should they exist? What would you gut them completely?
I think they're acceptable as long as you don't have to pay for them.
I agree there.
No, I'm talking if like in
Loot boxes?
Overwatch. In Overwatch, when you reach another level, there's a point in which they just give you a loot box, and you can do that. That's a type of gambling in a game that already pre-exists.
Also,
Is it-
you shouldn't be getting pay to win content though. Purely cosmetic.
No,
Is it- yeah, cosmetic.
Well, in
If it's only
Overwatch, it was all.
cosmetic,
In
fine.
Overwatch, it truly was cosmetic.
I want to start a game, and if I'm as good as other people, be able to play with them.
Yes.
I don't want to have to grind and spend time in order to unlock a certain gun or a certain perk.
It should not
No.
affect your ability
No.
to win at that game.
I'll say that a grind is okay, as long as like with like Destiny. one of the things is you can bring in the rare guns that you had into PvP matches. And I still think that you can win with some of those early on assault rifles because it scales.
Yeah, but if you're going into a guy who has like the most baller ass exotic shotgun,
Which was me. Yes.
Yeah,
Up to a point,
it's not fair with certain exotics for primary weapons where they have just an obvious benefit.
Honestly, though, when I was really bad at the game and I was low level, there was a part of me that liked the aspect of that. I don't know if it was like I wanted to strive for something or I wanted to get better.
And Destiny's maybe not the right example because that's not a loot box mechanic.
No, it's not.
That is a random drop that you get through single player. But
yeah,
I mean,
it shows how much time you actually spent with the game.
What do you think, Tom?
What do I think? I agree with you that cosmetics, as long as a loot box just provides cosmetic.
I kind of disagree with that, though. Why not charge a flat rate for a skin? $1.
That's fine, too. I'm down with that. I would prefer that more. Like, from a microtransaction level, if people know what they're fucking buying, there is no problem.
Yeah.
At all there. It's just what we're talking about is the whole
Show the odds.
randomness.
I think this is also a generational gap. If you're really going to break it down, a lot of it is just parents don't understand. Yes, I know what you were going to say. I think at that point, it's really just like, well, what do these V-Bucks mean to you? And the kid's like, la, la, la. Kids don't know what anything is worth. They really just fucking don't. And that's my problem is like, Fortnite is primarily played by children.
The only reason I lose at a game is because somebody's parent has more money than, I do. That's,
And I will say,
I don't care if you dress like Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
As long as I'm as good gameplay wise,
mask.
I think games need to be balanced in that way. But keep them out of single player. Don't try and force monetization into single player experiences. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you're making a Star Wars game, just appreciate that there's a certain sanctity that people have for that franchise.
Now, sorry, the last 3 movies have proven that they don't care about storytelling. I've
watched a million YouTube videos to disagree with that. I like The Rise of Skywalker. It was gloriously stupid.
It was
I thought The Last Jedi was pretty okay.
I didn't like Force Awakens.
I love
Force Awakens.
I think Last Jedi's one of the top.
It's a planet that
we've said it. We've
things.
talked about that before. Yeah.
If you want to get all of the DLC for Raw Dogs, you can go to patreon.com. Mm-hmm. We have exclusive video content, character skins, wallpapers. If you want to get the go on a date with Josh pack, that is the $50 best friend deal.
Oh.
Yep. Oh. So go to.
You could choose me.
Win a dogcaster.
Ooh, pick a dogcaster.
Go to Patreon.
We would probably all hang out anyway.
Go to patreon.com. You can select episode topics. You can get access to high definition episodes without ads, without any of that stuff. There's a lot on there. Go check it out.
It's such a deal, and you know what you're getting.
Also, my shitty doodles now.
And I mean, essentially, you're gambling that we're going to be funny, and we gamble every time we hit record.
Well, I'm going to be doing a drawing a day for this fucking thing. So
I'd say we won it.
Get onto
tonight,
Patreon.
Kids.
Tom, where can they find us?
You can find us at Hot Dogcast on the Twitters. You can email us hairofthedogcast@gmail.com. We are on Instagram.
Yes, we are on Instagram.
We are so taking over Instagram somehow.
You have no idea. Go to our Instagram.
Influencers now.
Dylan, are we a member of a podcast network?
Yes, we are. The Greenlit Podcasting Network. You can find a bunch of great different podcasts to find on here. It's pretty entertaining. I've listened to quite a few of them. It really just extends further than video games.
Don't forget to check out all of the other amazing content that Hair of the Dogcast puts out. We have The Trube, which is a beer review, and also whatever else Josh has been thinking about. There's a really great Last Dance review from that Michael Jordan documentary. Go check that out on YouTube. Gift Horse is a bi-weekly YouTube show where I personally, Loaf of White Brad, I review the PS Plus and Xbox Gold games, as well as Switch and 360 stuff that comes out, pre-console games. And you know what? It's pretty good sometimes.
That last one really has a fondness for Steve Urkel.
Yeah, if you like Family Matters, check out episode 3 for sure. And if you want to see some of Dylan's hand-drawn artwork, check us out on Instagram. We'll be posting some stuff there.
Don't judge me too harshly. A lot of it's
Shuffly.
from my phone.
Shuffly's going up, man.
Shuffly's going up. Shuffly I'm kind of proud of because he looks so sad.
Yeah.
Well
check out our last episode
no
of the
trouble.
Dogcast to get the backstory on Shuffly, the man who hides all the food in the walls of Castlevania.
He's a sad man. The next episode of Raw Dogs will be out in 2 weeks, of course. It's going to be 1997, the year in review. What games came out for what systems, the big news stories, and it'll be a fun retrospective look at where we all were in 1997. Well, if you're looking forward to checking our Patreon, we're going to be having an exclusive Mortal Kombat episode up there soon. So check that out if you want to know Dylan and our thoughts on
I can't wait.
Turns out Nightwolf is my favorite.
We're going to talk about the best, the worst, and the why Mortal Kombat characters. Mm-hmm. And we're going to also reach out to Pacina and Marquez and say what's up because I just miss those guys.
Yeah. Me too.
Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. We've been the Raw Dogs.
I'm Dylan.
I'm Tom.
And I'm the Fart.
We're the fuck. Now he's the fart.
I'm the fart. Oh, here's my chance to fucking take.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We've been the Raw Dogs. We love you so much.
All right, stay away from the boom boxes.